Well, communist New Jersey and gun control. It's interesting that this one of the states where that was one of the lead states in going against King George and bringing about the freedoms that this nation has been founded upon, the Bill of Rights, particularly the freedom of speech, as I am talking right now, and also the Second Amendment to the Constitution, which is the right to bear arms, and who the militia is, who we the people. That New Jersey actually is on the lead front of gun control and communism in this country. I want to actually state to you, though, even though I'm originally from New Jersey, after being in the military a while, I gained an appreciation that, not that to say that everybody in New Jersey is not patriotic, but I found that some of the most patriotic people seem to come from the South. And I live in the South now, and it's actually my heritage goes back to the South, the Confederacy, and the American Revolution through my ancestors. But let me say this: New Jersey has actually turned around whereby owning a rifle or a pistol or a shotgun in New Jersey is a privilege according to the authorities. Now, they don't have an outright ban on all these weapons. They got a lot of rigmarole with rules that you can get around that. And actually, the rules are very vague, so you really don't know what the hell's going to happen when, if you encounter a policeman or something and you have a weapon and it looks like one of the rifles that's banned, and maybe it's not, maybe it's a complete compliance. It doesn't mean the policeman won't confiscate it or charge you or whatever the hell it is. Like they'll have, you could have a muzzle brake, but it has to be like if it's one of those assault style weapons where it looks like an assault weapon, but it's not. It's a semi-automatic. You can have a muzzle brake, not a flash suppressor. The muzzle brake has to be welded to the weapon and pinned or pinned. You can't have a collapsible stock. You have to have no more than 15 rounds in a magazine. I don't even know if they changed that to 10, but I think it's 15. And also the pistol grip has to be not extending down below the trigger guard. I believe that's the case now. I'm not sure what the rules are because I don't live there. But it's quite obvious that since I know from way back when, even back in the 70s, and I don't know how long it's been like this actually, they still have it. You have to get a firearms ID card with fingerprints, two references, go to the police station before you can even purchase not only a weapon but also ammunition. And when I think about this, I say to myself, this is so ludicrous because if somebody wanted to kill somebody, that was like crazy or something, they could do it so many different ways. Not only with a car, but just by poisoning water, for instance, poisoning food. And actually, what goes on through the killings? Killings actually occur through doctors, prescription medicines. Actually, the third biggest cause of deaths in this country is that are due to disease that are or medical. It's not heart disease and cancer are the first ones, numbers 1 and 2. The biggest one after that, number 3, is medical mistakes by doctors. Now, I'm going to get a little more onto this because some of that stuff I really think needs to be criminally, not I think, I know needs to be criminally charged. What the game is, control. And New Jersey is a control state. That's what it is. It's a money power state. It's a place whereby the money powers control Washington, D.C. Now, not New Jersey per se as the whole state, but actually it's part of the state that's very close to New York City. Because even though I know when you live up there, if you live in New Jersey, you're like some, country bumpkin or something, even if you live right across the river. But when you're really talking about the New York metropolitan area, it really includes, quite a bit of miles into New Jersey. It's a big metropolitan area, and the power structure is all there. It's not just in the city per se. Now, I used to live I was growing up and raised around in New Jersey, very close to New York, very close to Manhattan, and very much. And actually, that part of it, I don't mind. I don't care about business and building infrastructure, manufacturing, progress of economic trade. I'm all for it. I'm a go-getter on that. It's just that the restriction of Americans' freedoms, I think, is bullshit. In New Jersey, it's almost like the premise for owning a gun is for hunting or target practice, but mainly hunting. I mean, that's not what the hell the damn Second Amendment's about. But you know what? Even don't even think about the Second Amendment. The thing is that the real reason you have something like in the Second Amendment, why it was formed, is because it's a natural right. You have the natural right to self-defense. It's just like this. We're looking at this deer who's a buck. He has antlers on his head. And why the antlers are there? It's to defend himself. That's what the deer has. You know, we're looking at a picture of that with a deer with antlers. It's like in New Jersey, maybe this deer should not have antlers because he can create harm to another deer. Cut those antlers off. But you know, they haven't got into that kind of regulation because they don't have enough money for it. But the nutcases over there will if they had the money for it. If they can have a nice, cushy, bureaucratic job that can just say, I'm regulating a deer and I'm going to capture deer and cut their antlers off because their antlers can be harmful to other deer. That's exactly what they're doing with the human population with the gun laws. But most people in New Jersey don't own a gun. What they really should do in New Jersey, even if you do not own a gun, you should apply for a firearms permit, go through the rigmarole, flood the whole system with the bullshit, complain about them not giving you the ID within 30 days. But you know what the problem is? I think most people in New Jersey want to just sit on their ass and they want their freedoms given to them. And see, that's the problem. It really is a state that is communistic because the majority of people there really are communistic. That's the absolute fact. Actually, when I went to that place makes me want to throw up. I really hate it so much. But that's why I don't live there. And I don't even consider it part of the United States. I consider it almost like a foreign country. But just like people who came from the Soviet Union that were former Soviet citizens or Russian citizens, you notice those type of people that come into America, sometimes they're the strongest patriots going, and they're the biggest critics of the Soviet system, even though they had to live under it and maybe they used to be Soviet citizens. That is really what happens to some of the New Jersey residents. Some of the New Jersey residents are the most fiercely patriotic people, although we are in a minority. I'm no longer a New Jersey resident. I haven't been for decades, but it's a matter of, principle that I'm telling you this because I realize that a lot of people have this association with all people from New Jersey are totally screwed up, and for the most part, that's probably true. But of the minority that are still there and still fighting for their rights and still, holding the cause together, they're fighting a losing battle against the majority, that's for sure. But it's not just even about the gun thing, but it's also about every single aspect and every single facet of life in New Jersey that's over-regulated to the max. Beaches, you go on a beach, you see a big no sign. Pretty much the only thing you can't do is swim. But even then, it's like only swimming in designated areas. You can't play volleyball, you can't play frisbee, you can't, I don't know, there's no beverages allowed on a beach, no open containers, no, I don't know, whatever. It's a big bunch of no signs all the way across. No skateboarding, no nothing. I'm like, what the hell is with this place, It's like if one person bitches, they make a law. Problem is, a lot of these people from New Jersey are coming down to the great state of Florida. Fortunately, they're living in southern Florida, where I don't live, but they come down to Florida and they bring their stupid attitudes over here where they peer out the window all the time and they try to find things that somebody's doing wrong and they bitch about it. Like there's a gun range actually in Central Florida where people that are bitching about the noise, even though it's 100% illegal, and they had the cops over there over a dozen times due to complaints by people miles away that heard gunshots off in the distance, even though it was an NRA instructor that was putting out, doing the stuff. It was safe. It was at a berm in the back, a berm on both sides, which a berm is a high mound of dirt, and there was miles and miles and miles of orange groves behind the range. It was all supervised and all controlled. Just the fact that somebody heard gunshots, 5 miles away or something, off in a distance, these people would complain. I'm assuming they're from up north. Who the hell else, retired people seem to come down south and bitch about these things. Now, I don't think Governor Chris Christie is that bad. He actually rescinded this law about New Jersey snow shoveling. They used to have a law in the books for so many years that it cost $400 to get a permit to shovel snow. I mean, not talking about a guy that has like a truck that has a snow plow and a salter on the back to do commercial snow plowing of, condo areas or something, or apartment buildings and residential areas and commercial business areas. No, I'm talking about a kid that may be 16 years old or 15 years old that wants to go around to the neighbors and shovel snow. They were required to get a $400 permit that lasted 6 months, and you had to renew it every year to actually shovel snow. At least Governor Christie got rid of that law. But that tells you what's wrong with that state. It makes me want to throw up. But you know what gets me? Most of the people, they don't fight this stuff. Even when they bitch about it, they don't fight it. If they're all fighting it, this shit wouldn't exist. But most people in that state are a bunch of worms. That's my opinion of it. I don't like it. That's why I don't live there. It's like, I really consider it a foreign country. And I can't really call like the North being all bad like Yankeedom, even though I kind of like the South better. If you go to New Hampshire or Maine, far different. Even if you go to upstate New York, even though New York's got draconian gun laws now, upstate New York is a lot different from around the city areas. But I also want to state something else. There's another reason why a lot of these draconian communist gun laws are coming about in states like California, particularly in the cities. Washington, D.C.'s got the worst ones going. Chicago's got terrible gun laws. Why is that? You know what it is? It's to control the minorities. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. I know, a lot of the white people are getting all pissed off about some of this stuff that are really strong on the Second Amendment and the Constitution. They talk about from my cold dead hands. And you know what? I think it should be from their cold dead hands, whoever's trying to take it away from you. Because I would not preface this with my death. It would be like their death, and I'll take their shit. That's the way I look at it. If it comes down to it, that bad. But I want to tell you that the real reason, impetus behind gun control is actually to control the minorities. Don't think that racism is not rampant still. What really is going on is, the liberals coddle the the immigrants, the blacks or Hispanics or whatever, but at the same time they're playing games. As a matter of fact, if you look at Planned Parenthood, where's Planned Parenthood most prevalent in? Urban cities. Why is that? Because the minorities live there. Why is the black population not growing as much? And I know sometimes I wonder about, I'll be quite honest with you, sometimes I wonder about black people that either there's something going on where, the teachings of the family have been wrong, whereby there's a lot more violent crime going on with blacks and things. I know that. If you look at statistics, there's absolute reality behind that situation. But I also realize, it's probably being created deliberately by a type of hidden racism out there, because you can get into just black people around that are totally law-abiding and freaking squared away and all the way, and understand the Second Amendment, understand what our nation's formed about. Productive is all hell, but what's going on is it's almost like there's a deliberate ploy by Hollywood and movies to glorify the gangster rap guy, and that don't really work for everybody. It only works for a few people, and by and large that's not going to work for everybody. So everybody that imitates that kind of crap, they wind up on dead end street and economically nowhere in a hole and with no freedoms. But if you look at what's going on with gun laws, they're highly restrictive, mainly where blacks and minorities live, which tells you it's not something, I'm going to tell you, it's not coming from the white people per se, but it's coming from the white elite, which the white elite are screwing over the white people too. The white elite are screwing us whites over too, all the way. So, I'm kind of telling you the truth all the way with this deal. Now, with New Jersey per se, and even when you're talking about it was one of the original 13 states where the colonies broke away from Great Britain, and New Jersey was on the forefront in the American Revolution. I also want to tell you that back during that time, the Delaware Native American Indians were the main force that fought against the British. Not actually George Washington. You hear those stories about, um, George Washington, Valley Forge, and yeah, all that's true. But where the British used to get you bushwhacked and fight, have to fight guerrilla warfare from the colonists, uh, you know, ambushing them in the woods. Mainly, that was the Delaware American Indians, along with some colonists. It was mainly the Delaware American Indians. I'm going to mention this here because it goes to show you just how, because I want to bring up a point about this. The Delaware American Indians were supposed to get the 14th estate, which is present-day Ohio, even though the Delaware tribes are mainly in New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, all the way up through the coast and partly in eastern Pennsylvania. But since that was taken over by the white man, they were supposed to get present-day Ohio as the 14th state in exchange for them helping the colonies break away from the British. Well, what happened was Chief White Eyes, who was the chief that was uniting the tribes, and putting them on the side of the American Revolution, on the side of the colonies, he was betrayed and murdered by people in that were in the American Revolution. And later on, his white wife, she was married to a Caucasian woman, she was murdered a decade later, so they can break that agreement with the with the American Native Indian Delaware Indians and not give them the state of Ohio as the 14th state. So that would have been a semi-autonomous country, because states back then were pretty much their own little country. We used to have a colonists that were basically the original United States was more of a confederacy with a lot of states' rights. Now, I bring that up because it shows you the kind of treachery that goes on with the white establishment elite. Not the white man, the white establishment elite. Now, the white establishment elite is actually playing the same game with the average white, the majority of whites, and the blacks, and Hispanics, and anybody that comes here as an immigrant. They're doing it to everybody. And the ones that actually did it to probably the worst was the American Native Indians. But just screwing us all. And it's most apparent in this great state of New Jersey. And I say great state of New Jersey because, it's one of the original states, but it's gotten so far away from what it's about that, we can only call it the great state of New Jersey as it was in 1700. It's not what it is today. Now it's the great communist state of New Jersey. But let me just state that what I personally think, and you know what, I would do this. I wouldn't just rescind the gun laws. I would freaking go to this extent. I know, like, gun control actually should be, like when you're looking at this chart, handgun safety, gun control should be keep your finger off the trigger when you're not ready to fire. Point the gun in a safe direction. Don't point the gun at anything you don't intend to shoot. At least assume the gun is loaded. Know what is behind your target, because if you miss, you have to understand that where is that round going to go to? Is there something past that target that maybe it's cover that, maybe behind that cover there's something that could be, that a person could be harmed or something. That's actually what gun control means to me. But what I really think, though, not only should there be something whereby these laws are rescinded, what I would do, and you know what, you'll say this is almost crazy, but you know what, this is how I would really like to freaking put it right back to the establishment. I would release most of the prisoners that are in the jails and arm them. And I'm talking about most of the prisoners in today's system are incarcerated for basically draconian bullshit, bureaucratic laws. They're in there over drugs, over weed, and stuff like, or they manufactured some drug, or they did something, or maybe it was even the guy that had a 17-round Marlin 60 22 caliber rifle like the Boy Scouts have, and the new law in New Jersey made it 15 rounds. Anything over 15 rounds is assault rifle, and he got freaking charged with that. Now, about 60% or more of the people in the prison system today are in there for basically Bullshit. Nothing. What I would do, it was I would, not only would I release them, I'd arm the shit out of them. And you know what? If any of them get pissed off at the freaking system or they want to take whatever, fine. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. Because, and you know, the other people in New Jersey that think they don't want a gun, if they think, oh, the you know, the forces that we pay taxes for are going to protect them. You know, I got to tell you the absolute fact. You know, most in the large, not even all the large cities, I know even in the small cities in New Jersey, a lot of the cops are involved in the drug trade, blatantly. And I'm not talking weed, I'm talking heroin and cocaine. I know this for a fact. So, you know, to me, I think the system in New Jersey is rotted right to the core. The criminals are more honest than the freaking establishment that's running the state. That's why I think the criminals, most of the people, I wouldn't say all, but most of the people that actually supposedly committed crimes in New Jersey, they ought to just be armed, released and armed. That's the way I look at it. I'm not even looking at it like, you know, arguing about the stupidity of the law that does, you know, you don't like a rifle because it has a black color on it, or the sporting purposes clause. Oh, to me, I'd throw that all out. It's bullshit all the way. Just throw it the hell out. And also I want to talk about something from the Brady law. This is when President Reagan was shot by this Hinckley guy, Hinckley Jr., when he's 25 years old. There's been a lot of theories out there that actually he didn't fire the shot. There was another, there's a supposedly, it's a cropped picture. He fired a shot, but it wasn't a shot that hit Reagan. There was another gunman involved. Now, that could very well be because this 25-year-old probably couldn't hit shit with a little pistol. It's very, 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 very difficult to shoot with a little pistol, especially under stress and a lot of people around. It's very, very hard to aim that sucker, believe me, even if you know what you're doing. So I don't know how this guy freaking figured out, you know, so he missed, like, if he was like a half inch over, he would have hit Reagan's heart and he would have been dead. And of course, former CIA director George Herbert Walker Bush would have been president. And of course, CIA director George Herbert Walker Bush was in Dallas at the time of, you know, the JFK assassination. So you got to be born yesterday not to see what's going on. But when Hinckley, you know, fired that shot, he also hit Brady, and Brady was paralyzed. And you know what? I can tell you one thing: even when you have paralysis, that stuff can be cured. It's more bullshit by the freaking medical establishment. A lot of stuff can be cured dirt cheap. Don't want to freaking be flipping about it here, but a lot of it can be. And you know, they won't do it. They won't do it. But let me just state that. So they passed the Brady law. More restrictions on firearms. Now, this guy Hinckley, another indication that he was possibly set up big time, or it was some kind of deal going on. He was put in a ward for the criminally insane, a psychiatric ward, which means anybody, they'll destroy his mind. So anything he would have known about, maybe there was a deal that something was supposed to happen and he wasn't, whatever, and he got double crossed. Well, they'll never know. Nobody will never know because they'll destroy this guy's mind, and he won't be able to. Anything he says will be suspect because supposedly he's criminally insane. But I'm sure they already destroyed his mind. So actually, the psychiatric profession is going to be used very much so to freaking control people and make them into, you know, give them mental lobotomies with drugs. That's what they do. So also, I want to say something with Hinckley. There's been, I don't know if it was I'm not 100% sure about this, but I did read that his father was some kind of person involved. He was a wealthy person involved in the oil industry, and he was facing a bunch of criminal charges and $1 million fine on something that they were investigating. And it makes me think there was some kind of setup here that he got out of that in exchange for this. Because you do know the powers that be don't want armed citizens. As a matter of fact, if you look back at all the school shootings and everything from Sandy Hook to which is the Columbine school shooting, and you know, the guy that was a whistleblower, that was another guy that got put in a psychiatric institute and drugged up. And also the Virginia student shooting, the one I just had recently. um, about a year ago. I mean, I looked at that gun and I saw the flashes of that gun. I said, the pistol. I said, that no rounds being ejected from it and all that kind of garbage. It says that was not even a gun. It was a fake setup. The whole thing was just set up to the max. But I look at that. Practically most of these things that even happened were the person that was the shooter. Either they were on psychiatric drugs, or they were on psychiatric drugs for a long time, or they were currently on psychiatric drugs. Those are mind-altering drugs that actually caused the crime. What really should have happened was the psychiatrist should have got criminally charged on every case, because that's the one that actually causes it. But what's going on right now is the powers that be are using psychiatry as a method of population control, gun control, and thwarting those that dissent from the New World Order's directives. That's another thing. So, Chris Christie, I don't know. I mean, this guy's got he's New Jersey, man. I mean, if he was some other state, he'd probably be a lot more libertarian. And the way that state is, most people in that state are I'll just say it, they're screwed up. The vast majority. I mean, not all of them, but that's just how. That's why I won't live there. I won't live there at all. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about going up to the mountains of freaking Tennessee, in northeastern Tennessee, and that'll be the last bastion of freedom, as far as I know. At least that's east of the freaking Mississippi, unless you're going up to Maine or New Hampshire. And that's the way I look at it. Because after that, the only thing that's really free would be Utah, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, whatever. So, but New Jersey's not a free state. It's a communist state. It's been that way. I don't even know when they came up with that deal with the firearms card. I'd have to look that up. I'll probably put an annotation on here when it was. I know it was a present in like 1972 or 71 or some crap. And that was a long time ago. I remember that's when I think I got the damn card, 71 or something like that. And, it was present for years prior to that. But even in the state of New Jersey, you can't pump your own gas. But what's interesting, though? I'm going to say a little more about that state. I remember when I was growing up as a teenager, I always pumped my own gas. My dad always pumped his own gas. Although that law was in place since the 40s. And I remember when I was up there one time in mid 90s for a few months, I was pumping my own gas in my bike, in my car, in my El Camino, and in my motorcycle, my Harley Sportster. Now I noticed when I went up there one time about 10 years ago or so, these assholes wouldn't let me touch the freaking thing. It was like, don't touch the pump. You're so stupid, you know how to pump gas. Yeah, but I could drop a gas tank and change the fuel pump in a gas tank, and you can't, you dumbass. You're just a gas pump junkie. But that aggravates the hell out of me. That state pisses me off. That state really does piss me off. I'm really disgusted with that place, but it's probably the worst one. I know they say California's getting like that, but you know what? I lived out in California. California's 100,000 times better than New Jersey. There's no doubt about it, man. Despite some people calling it commie California, California is way better than New Jersey. Hands down, I would live in California over New Jersey. But I don't want to be too harsh on the place, because there's probably 10% or more of the people in there are freaking fed up with the place. They're constantly complaining about it, and they're overwhelmed by the majority of people in New Jersey that are sitting around with their thumb up their ass, and they freaking kiss the authorities' ass, and they just want to play like they're God on earth with fancy shit. So I don't really think too bad of Governor Chris Christie. I think he's all right. I wish he could do more. I wish he could, but at least he supported Donald Trump, man. And, I don't know. That's a separate subject with Donald Trump, because I don't trust that guy 110%, because, that was a guy that used to be for partial birth abortions at one time, and I don't know. Everybody's a bullshit artist. I can tell you that right now. I don't trust nothing. Don't trust nothing. We don't need a leader to give us freedoms. That's what it comes about. We don't need a law to give us freedoms. We need a law to protect us against the government going too far. But our freedoms come from a higher authority. It's natural law. It's not even about Jesus. It's not about Allah. It's not about, Yahweh. It's not that. It's natural law. That's what it is. Our rights, inherent rights, come from a higher authority. It was recognized in American Indian law, for crying out, American Native Indian law. It's been known like that. Anyway, that's my thing on New Jersey, and that's why I won't live in New Jersey. But if I live in New Jersey, I'm going to be the most vicious, fight back son of a bitch against these draconian assholes. And, any pair of people that sit on their ass like a bunch of dorks, and women that freaking complain and look out the window over bullshit about somebody using a leaf blower and making too much noise, I'm going to counterattack them with legal stuff. Because by them bitching about restricting my rights, they are committing a crime. When people restrict my rights, they commit a crime too. They're committing a crime. Because it's none of their damn business. That's what it comes down to. Because a lot of people freaking just think about, it's the Second Amendment. But it goes far beyond that. It's natural law. But it's not just all about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment and gun rights is kind of like an acid test for like how everything else is with individual rights. And if you're against gun rights or individuals owning guns, you're pretty much against individual rights over the state. It goes all hand in hand. That's pretty much what New Jersey's about. That's why I can't stand the place. Can't stand it, man. Hate it. I consider it a foreign country. That's what I consider it. I really do. And I wish those assholes would quit coming south. I know I went south, but it's because I know not everybody from New Jersey that goes south is like that. But like I consider myself like I got out of freaking the Soviet Union of New Jersey, and I went to a freer country when I went south. That's the way I figure it. But you know what? Maybe I got ingrained in me some of my Southern DNA from way back when, because I'm Southern half from my father's side in DNA all the way back to the American Revolution. So, maybe that's partly why I think that way. I really, somehow, I never really liked what was going on in New Jersey. It was horrible. And it's the biggest criminals there are in New Jersey are basically the bureaucracy and big government. Many times the criminals are far more honest. And that's another reason I would think for most of the people that are even incarcerated in New Jersey, they'll just release them and arm the shit out of them. Because their rights have probably been violated by some draconian, bureaucratic, bullshit law in the first place. And they need to protect themselves from the state itself. So, not only come and take it, but it's like, we don't need you, God government. We don't need you at all. You're here to serve us, and if you don't serve us, you don't exist. That's the way it comes down to. So, that's my thing on this. That's my take. And I don't put it as like I don't take a defensive posture. I take an attack posture, because they're attacking me. And the best defense is a good counterattack. And when you get the advantage, attack further and attack more and more.